Hello everyone and welcome back to our Super Tuesday predictions. And in this video we're going to take a look at North Carolina, Virginia, and Massachusetts. So let's take a look here. If you have watched my California and Texas videos, this will look familiar to you. I am going to make this bigger so you can see. So as you can see, California has the most, 415 delegates up for grabs tomorrow. I'm recording this on Monday. Texas second with 228 delegates. North Carolina at 110. Virginia at 99. Massachusetts at 91. So we're going to focus on these 5 states because that is the bulk share of the delegates. You know, we are going to talk about the other states in future videos here that you can be watching for that will be dropping soon. But for now, we're just going to focus on these 3 states as I have produced California and Texas, and you can take a look at those on my YouTube channel if you have not seen those. So let's dive in to some North Carolina predictions. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and pull up the wiki page for North Carolina so you can see the latest in the polling. Hopefully you can see this fairly well. I will blow it up to make it a little bit easier for you. Alright, so what you see here is that Joe Biden is increasing in North Carolina from the past. He has led at times. Bernie Sanders also has led at times, and he seems to be pretty stable here in polling. Joe Biden is aggregate at 25%. Bernie Sanders at 23.3%. Michael Bloomberg is right close to the 15% threshold. He's at 16.1%, and you can see he's tailing off a little bit here in North Carolina. Elizabeth Warren's pretty stable around 11%. And the vote share between Buttigieg and Klobuchar, who have exited the campaign, is right around 10% total, and another 12% that are undecided. So let's look here into the numbers. This is our aggregate, and we're also taking into effect here the, vote that is outstanding, the vote that will be consolidated on actual, tomorrow on Super Tuesday from the candidates who are out of the race now. Now, North Carolina does have early voting, and I am predicting about 11% is already baked in. And that is from a news article I got from the News and Observer out of Raleigh that said about 11% from the previous years early voted in North Carolina. So we're going to adjust that a little bit from the aggregate to what I think could potentially happen here. I'm going to give Bloomberg right at 15. Like I said, he's hovering around that number. He hasn't shown a strong enough support in the polls to be above 15, so I'm going to give him as that floor. Warren, I'm going to keep hers at the aggregate because she was polling right around the 11% there. And adjusted Bernie's 24% and then Biden 28%. Now we did have, I don't know if I have saved this or not. Okay, I did not. We saw some second choices in North Carolina, and I don't think it was too big of a jump if I recall correctly. But what I've done here is I've given Warren a bump up from the other 2 candidates being out, but not enough to surpass 15%. I'm going to keep her below 15%. Also gave Biden and Bernie a bump from those candidate losses and keeping Bloomberg about 18% here. So, like I said, on previous, where there are really no winner-take-all states, kind of like in the Republican primary, in the 2016 edition. You saw a lot of winner-take-all states, and that helped propel then candidate Trump to the nomination. Well, it's very difficult to actually win on the first ballot, and that's what I'm going to talk about in a future video. after we see the Super Tuesday results, is there still a path for Bernie to win? Because, you know, he was the leader of the pack so far. Is there a path? And, you know, there's all kinds of noise coming out that there's maybe some establishment play to block him. But is there even a path for anybody to win on the first ballot? That's going to be interesting to see. But here is what I'm predicting out of North Carolina. And then we're going to conduct a total scoreboard. So watch for that video to drop. A scoreboard of all of the Super Tuesday states. Now let's look into Virginia. And here is polling out of Virginia. Now, the latest poll I was looking at out of Monmouth, I'll actually click on this so you can see only 1 in 4 voters firm about choice. So that's only 25% of the electorate here is actually firm on this choice. And this was, you know, middle of February, so some time has passed, some candidates have gotten out, and that sort of thing. And that's why it's so difficult to predict Virginia, and it's really difficult to predict all of these states, to be honest with you, because there's so many moving parts. There's so many variables as far as early voting versus day of voting. It's so difficult to know who is actually going to win these, but you can rest assured to kind of really think that in most cases, Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden are going to get the bulk share of delegates. And it's really about if Bernie can get that separation between Joe. And we'll try to take a look at our final scoreboard to see if that's the case. Now here in the aggregate for Virginia is Bernie at 24, Biden close to 20, Michael Bloomberg there at 18, and Elizabeth Warren at 10%. So what I've done here is I've kind of adjusted that aggregate to what I think we'll see, which is Bernie above 30%, Biden close to 30%. I don't think Warren can meet that 15% threshold, and I think Bloomberg will jump up to 25%. Now, this is just purely speculation. Like I said, it's very difficult to predict Virginia, but it does seem that Virginia is more favorable to establishment candidates because you're so close to D.C. There's a large population there close to D.C., so the D.C., you know, as far as like the D.C. metro, that a bulk share of that is federally government type run businesses or businesses off of the federal government. They're very dependent on stabilization there in D.C., so they're going to be a little bit warmer to those type of candidates. So that's why we see I see a good showing for Biden and Bloomberg, but I think Bernie could win the state. So that's why I'm going to give him the edge there. Let's go to Massachusetts now and take a look here at this primary, which is pretty remarkable that Elizabeth Warren is not winning this race since that's her home state. It's very tight though with Bernie. Michael Bloomberg and Joe Biden are both around the 10-11% range, which is going to help him because Pete was polling fairly close to the 15% range himself. I believe that's really going to help both Biden and Bloomberg get close to that 15% range, in which this is the aggregate for Massachusetts, and I am going to push them both to the 15% range. So that obviously hurts Warren and Bernie being able to gain even more delegates if this is the case. So that's where this proportionality really hurts candidates being able to break away from the pack. You're always kind of pulled back to the pack. These bigger states, as far as California and Texas, will help some, but we'll do a full scoreboard analysis. We'll take a look at how many more delegates each candidate will have to meet to try to win on the first ballot. Talk that more in future videos, so stay tuned for those, and I enjoy having you here. Please leave a comment if you so desire, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks and have a good day.